What if 2026 is not a continuation of your past, but a divine interruption? What if heaven has marked this year to reverse losses, heal what medicine could not, and unlock the destiny you were born for? There are years that pass, and there are years that shift destiny. Some years feel like pages in a book, others feel like chapters. But once in a while, a year becomes a turning point, a spiritual intersection where heaven interrupts history, where patterns break, and where life is never the same again. 2026 is not just another calendar year. It is not a continuation of delay. It is not a repetition of struggle. It is not an extension of disappointment. It is a divinely appointed turning point. Because not all seasons are equal. Not all years carry the same spiritual weight. Not all moments are neutral. Some moments are chosen. There are times when heaven marks a season, not for survival, but for transformation. Not for maintenance, but for movement. Not for endurance, but for elevation. And when a season is marked, everything connected to it begins to shift, relationships shift, opportunities shift, mindsets shift, doors shift, direction shifts, identity shifts, vision shifts, because destiny does not change gradually. It changes suddenly. Suddenly is not fast. Suddenly is not rushed. Suddenly is when preparation meets divine timing. People often think sudden change is random, but sudden change is the result of long preparation meeting the right moment. Hidden growth, silent endurance, private tears, unseen faith, uncelebrated obedience, quiet consistency. All of it builds until one season activates it. And when that season arrives, it feels like acceleration. It feels like restoration. It feels like divine movement. It feels like alignment. Because turning points don't announce themselves with noise. They announce themselves with movement. Movement in thinking. Movement in vision. Movement in courage. Movement in obedience. Movement in faith. This is why not everyone enters new seasons, even when they're available. Because access is
If you radiate
spiritual,
panic, you
not
attract
physical.
chaotic situations.
Timing is spiritual,
If you radiate scarcity,
not natural.
you attract limited
Breakthrough
opportunities.
is spiritual,
But if you radiate
not
trust,
logical.
clarity, and purpose,
Some people stay
you
in
attract
old
situations
seasons,
that match
not
that
because the
frequency.
door is
This
closed,
is why someone can
but
work
because
less
the
but achieve
mindset
more.
hasn't
Their energy
shifted.
is clean,
A
focused,
turning
and
point
aligned.
requires
They don't
inner
waste time in
permission
doubt or
before
negativity.
outer
They don't leak
manifestation.
energy through stress
And this
or
is
fear.
where destiny
Their mind is
shifts,
sharp. Their
not in the
intuition is
environment, not in the economy, not in politics, not in systems, but in alignment. Because prosperity does not begin with money. Prosperity begins with order. Abundance does not begin with income. Abundance begins with alignment. Success does not begin with opportunity. Success begins with positioning. People work harder and harder, but see less and less. They hustle more but harvest less. They strive more but receive less. They push more but move less. Why? Because effort without alignment creates exhaustion, not prosperity. You can be busy and still be blocked. You can be active and still be misaligned. You can be moving and still be stuck. You can be working and still be delayed. Because struggle is often not the absence of effort, it is the absence of order. When life is out of alignment, energy leaks, focus scatters, vision blurs, purpose weakens, progress slows, peace disappears. But when alignment enters, resistance decreases, clarity increases, focus sharpens. Doors open, speed increases, flow begins. This is why some people work less and receive more. Not because they are luckier, but because they are aligned. Alignment is when your thinking matches truth, vision matches purpose, actions match calling, values match direction. Faith matches obedience. When alignment happens, effort becomes effective. Because heaven does not bless chaos, it blesses order. Prosperity flows where purpose flows. Provision follows alignment. Supply follows assignment. Resources follow responsibility. This is why chasing money never creates wealth. Chasing purpose attracts provision. Because wealth is not a target, It is a byproduct. When life is aligned, provision doesn't have to be forced. It begins to flow naturally. Opportunities appear. Connections emerge. Doors open. Ideas activate. Strategies form. Favor manifests, not because you chased them, but because you aligned with purpose. This is the shift of 2026. From striving guy to flowing. From forcing gay to aligning. From chasing gear to attracting. From struggling gay to stabilizing. From confusion to clarity. From delay gay to direction. This is not a season of survival. This is a season of structure. This is not a season of chaos. This is a season of clarity. This is not a season of noise. This is a season of vision. This is not a season of fear. This is a season of faith, because divine turning points always produce divine order. When alignment enters your life, your decisions change. Your priorities change. Your discipline changes. Your relationships change. Your standards change. Your focus changes, not because you're forced, but because you're transformed. You stop asking, "How can I survive?" and start asking, "How can I build?" You stop asking, "How can I get through this?" and start asking, "How can I grow from this?" You stop asking, "How can I escape this?" and start asking, "How can I evolve?" Because alignment shifts your questions. And when your questions change, your future changes. This is how turning points work. Not through explosions, but through realignment. Not through chaos, but through clarity. Not through noise, but through order. Not through pressure, but through positioning. This is why 2026 is not about trying harder. It's about aligning deeper. Not pushing more, but positioning better. Not forcing doors, but becoming ready for them. Not chasing blessings, but becoming aligned with them. Because what is aligned cannot be denied. What is ordered cannot be blocked. What is positioned cannot be stopped. What is appointed cannot be canceled. Divine timing does not consult fear. Divine seasons do not negotiate with doubt. Divine turning points do not wait for comfort. They require courage. They require faith. They require surrender. They require obedience. They require trust. They require movement. Because alignment is not passive, it is intentional. It is choosing discipline over distraction. It is choosing focus over fear. It is choosing purpose over pressure. It is choosing obedience over opinion. It is choosing growth over comfort. And when alignment happens, struggle loses authority. Because struggle is not your identity. Delay is not your destiny. Pain is not your future. Lack is not your portion. Confusion is not your calling. This is a turning point season. Not because circumstances are perfect, but because alignment is happening. Not because the world is calm, but because your spirit is aligning. Not because everything is easy, but because everything is shifting. This is how destiny activates, quietly, deeply, internally, spiritually, powerfully, before it ever becomes visible externally, because every divine shift begins inside first. And when inner alignment happens, outer acceleration follows. When the inside is ordered, the outside is unlocked. When the spirit is aligned, the future opens. When the vision is aligned, the provision flows. When the purpose is aligned, the prosperity follows. This is the foundation of 2026, a divinely appointed turning point, and a season where prosperity begins not with effort, but with alignment. And once alignment begins, everything else will follow. Many people pray for healing, but few understand where healing truly begins. They focus on the body, the symptoms, the pain, the diagnosis. They search for relief on the outside, hoping something external will fix what feels broken within. But lasting healing does not begin in the body. It begins in the inner world. Because the body is often the final messenger, not the source of the struggle. Before pain appears physically, it often forms spiritually. Before sickness manifests in the body, imbalance takes root internally. Before exhaustion shows outwardly, it develops inwardly. This is why temporary relief is common, but lasting restoration is rare. Because treating symptoms without addressing the source only delays the return of pain. True healing starts when the inner life is restored. When fear is replaced with faith. When bitterness is replaced with forgiveness. When shame is replaced with identity. When anxiety is replaced with trust. When confusion is replaced with clarity. The inner world governs the outer experience. A wounded spirit weakens strength. A burdened heart drains vitality. A restless mind disrupts peace. A fractured identity creates instability. This is why emotional exhaustion often feels physical. Why unresolved grief weighs down the body. Why prolonged stress manifests as sickness. Why inner turmoil disrupts sleep, appetite, and energy. The body responds to what the spirit carries. Healing begins when the inner environment changes, when peace replaces pressure, when hope replaces heaviness, when truth replaces lies, when rest replaces resistance. This is not denial of physical realities, it is recognition of spiritual order. Restoration follows alignment. When the inner life is realigned, the body responds, because the body listens to the spirit. This is why healing is not instant for everyone, not because healing is unavailable, but because alignment is a process. Inner healing requires honesty. It requires surrender. It requires release. It requires trust. It requires patience. Many want healing without confronting the wounds that caused the pain. But healing does not bypass truth. It travels through it. This is why some people recover physically yet remain broken emotionally, and others are restored emotionally and watch their physical condition improve. Because healing is holistic. When the inner world finds rest, the outer world follows. This is the first shift. Healing begins inside. And this same principle applies to destiny. Many believe delay means denial. That if something hasn't happened yet, it never will. That if it hasn't arrived by now, it's too late. But destiny does not operate on human timelines. Delay is not cancellation. Waiting is not rejection. Silence is not absence. Some things are delayed not because they are denied, but because they are being prepared. There are seasons when destiny is protected by delay. Protection from premature exposure. Protection from unprepared responsibility. Protection from misuse. Protection from destruction. Because what arrives before maturity can be lost easily. Delay is often mercy in disguise. What feels late may actually be preserved. Destiny requires capacity. It requires wisdom to carry it, character to sustain it, strength to steward it, discernment to protect it. Without inner growth, outer fulfillment becomes dangerous. This is why inner healing often precedes destiny fulfillment, because a broken inner world cannot sustain a fulfilled destiny. Unhealed wounds distort vision. Unresolved pain sabotages progress. Unaddressed fear limits expansion. Unrestored identity weakens authority. Destiny does not heal you. Healing prepares you for destiny. This is why some people reach their goals and feel empty. They achieved the dream, but not the healing. They reached the destination, but not the wholeness. And without wholeness, fulfillment becomes pressure. Delay gives space for healing. Delay gives room for growth. Delay allows transformation. It is in waiting seasons that inner foundations are strengthened, faith deepens, trust matures, identity stabilizes, character develops, wisdom grows. Delay strips false dependence. It removes shallow confidence. It dismantles unhealthy motives. What remains is clarity. Destiny that arrives after healing lasts longer. Because healed people build healthier futures. This is why delay should not be resented. It should be understood. Delay is not passive. it is purposeful. Nothing is wasted in waiting when alignment is happening. Every tear contributes to strength. Every struggle builds capacity. Every unanswered prayer deepens trust. Every closed door refines discernment. The delay is shaping you for what's coming. Because destiny is not just about where you go, it's about who you become. And who you become determines how long you stay. This is why healing and destiny are connected. Healing prepares the inner world. Destiny manifests in the outer world. Without healing, destiny overwhelms. With healing, destiny empowers. This is the difference between pressure and purpose. Pressure feels heavy. Purpose feels aligned. Pressure drains life. Purpose releases life. Pressure overwhelms. Purpose strengthens. Healing transforms destiny from a burden into a blessing. This is why seasons of delay are often seasons of deep inner work. Not visible progress, but internal preparation. You may not see growth, but growth is happening. You may not feel advancement, but advancement is forming. You may not see movement, but momentum is building. Because what is unseen often matters most. Roots grow underground before fruit appears, and when fruit appears, it lasts. Destiny delayed is not destiny denied. It is destiny refined. It is destiny protected. It is destiny aligned. This is the reassurance of the season. Healing is happening, even if you don't feel it yet. Growth is happening, even if you don't see it yet. Alignment is happening, even if progress seems slow. And when the time is right, everything will make sense. The pain will have purpose. The waiting will have meaning. The delay will reveal wisdom, because nothing aligned is ever lost. What is meant for you may arrive differently than expected, but it will arrive prepared. And when it does, you will be ready, not broken, not fearful, not unstable, but healed, grounded, strengthened, aware, aligned. This is how destiny fulfills without destroying. This is how healing prepares the future. This is how delay becomes deliverance. And this is why healing begins within and destiny unfolds in time. Because what is restored inside can be trusted with what arrives outside, and what is delayed for healing is released for longevity. That is the power of this season. Healing within, destiny ahead, not denied, just perfectly timed. Many people don't realize they are not fighting isolated problems, they are fighting cycles. Cycles of loss, cycles of delay, cycles of struggle, cycles of emotional exhaustion, cycles of financial pressure. The pain feels familiar. The pattern feels repetitive. The disappointment feels predictable. Different faces, different situations, same outcome. Because cycles repeat until they are confronted, not avoided. A cycle is not bad luck. A cycle is a signal. It points to something unresolved, something unaligned, something unaddressed. And until that thing is revealed, the cycle continues, not to punish, but to expose. Many people pray for change while unknowingly protecting the pattern. They ask for a breakthrough, but refuse to confront the root. They want new results without new alignment. They want new outcomes without new obedience. But cycles do not break with desire. They break with decision. Financial loss often repeats, not because of lack of effort, but because of misplaced focus. Emotional loss often repeats, not because of weakness, but because of unhealed wounds. Cycles thrive where awareness is absent. This is why clarity is dangerous to cycles. The moment truth enters, repetition loses power. Cycles survive in confusion. They collapse in understanding. Breaking cycles requires courage, because it often means admitting that what feels normal is actually destructive. It requires questioning familiar habits, reevaluating learned behaviors, re-examining inherited mindsets, releasing unhealthy attachments. Many cycles are inherited, not chosen. Patterns passed through families, beliefs formed through survival, habits built during hardship. What once protected now restricts, and what once helped you survive may now be blocking you from thriving. Breaking cycles means choosing growth over comfort. Because cycles feel safe, even when they are painful, at least they are predictable. But transformation demands the unfamiliar. This is why cycles resist change. They are fueled by fear of the unknown. Breaking cycles requires stepping into discomfort, trusting that alignment is safer than familiarity. Financial cycles break when priorities shift. When money stops being the goal and stewardship becomes the focus. When spending aligns with values, when giving aligns with trust, when planning aligns with purpose. Emotional cycles break when boundaries are established. When self-worth replaces approval. When truth replaces tolerance. When peace replaces people-pleasing. Cycles break when standards rise. What you tolerate continues. What you confront changes. This is the turning point. Not when circumstances change, but when you change. Because cycles don't respond to hope alone. They respond to obedience. Obedience is not popular. It is not easy. It is not comfortable. But it is powerful. Obedience is alignment in action. It is choosing what is right over what is familiar, what is true over what is convenient, what is eternal over what is temporary. And obedience unlocks something effort never can: supernatural favor. Favor is not random. It follows alignment. Favor is not earned. It is released. Favor flows when life is positioned correctly. Many try to access favor through activity, but favor responds to obedience, not business. One act of obedience can undo years of struggle. One aligned decision can break a generational pattern. One step in the right direction can shift momentum. This is why obedience often feels small, but carries massive impact. Because obedience activates unseen systems, it triggers movement beyond what logic explains. Suddenly, doors open without force. Resources appear without strain. Connections align without effort. Protection activates without warning. Acceleration replaces delay. This is supernatural favor, not manipulation, not control, not striving. Alignment. Obedience positions you where favor can find you. Favor doesn't chase people. It meets them at the point of obedience. This is why delay often lifts after obedience, not because circumstances changed, but because positioning did. Cycles break when obedience interrupts them. When you respond differently, choose differently, move differently. The cycle expects the same reaction. Obedience introduces a new response, and that new response confuses the pattern. Cycles depend on predictability. Obedience disrupts predictability. This is how cycles collapse. Financially, when generosity replaces fear, when discipline replaces impulse, when stewardship replaces scarcity. Emotionally, when boundaries replace tolerance, when truth replaces silence, when healing replaces avoidance. Obedience is not about perfection, it's about direction. A heart pointed in the right direction invites favor. This is why favor rests on the obedient, not the flawless. Obedience signals trust, and trust invites provision. This is the unseen exchange. Obedience releases favor. Favor releases provision. Provision stabilizes the future. Cycles end where trust begins, and trust is proven through obedience. Not words, not intention, but action. This is why obedience often requires sacrifice, because sacrifice proves sincerity. It costs pride, it costs comfort, it costs familiarity, it costs control. But what it releases is far greater. Cycles steal slowly, favor restores suddenly. Years of loss can be overturned in one season of alignment. This is not exaggeration, it is spiritual law. When obedience aligns with timing, acceleration follows, because favor is not delayed, it is activated. The delay was never about supply, it was about alignment. And once alignment happens, Favor moves fast. This is why breaking cycles feels intense. Resistance increases before release. Patterns fight back before collapsing, because cycles know when they are losing authority. Obedience threatens cycles, and cycles respond with fear, doubt, and distraction. But persistence breaks resistance. Every obedient step weakens the cycle. Every aligned choice loosens its grip. Every act of trust diminishes its power. Until one day, the pattern no longer responds, the trigger no longer works, the outcome no longer repeats. Because the cycle has been broken, and in its place favor flows, not because life becomes perfect, but because it becomes aligned. Favor doesn't remove challenges, it removes stagnation. It doesn't erase effort, it multiplies results. It doesn't cancel responsibility, it strengthens capacity. This is the promise of obedience, not ease, but empowerment. Not escape, but elevation. Not luck, but alignment. Cycles are broken by truth and obedience. Favor is unlocked by trust and alignment. And once favor is active, progress becomes sustainable. This is not temporary breakthrough. This is lasting change. Because cycles broken stay broken when obedience becomes a lifestyle, and favor sustained becomes legacy. This is the shift of this season, from repetition to restoration, from loss to stability, from effort to alignment, from survival to stewardship. Cycles are ending, favor is activating, alignment is happening, not by force, but by obedience, and what obedience unlocks, no cycle can ever reclaim. Many people pray faithfully, consistently, passionately, yet remain frustrated when answers seem delayed. They ask, they believe, they wait, they wonder. But prayer alone is not the end of the process. Prayer opens the door, gratitude keeps it open, because gratitude is not a reaction to blessing. It is a position of trust. Gratitude says, I trust the process even before I see the outcome. It declares faith without evidence. It honors provision before manifestation. This is why gratitude activates what prayer initiates. Prayer asks, gratitude agrees. Prayer speaks desire. Gratitude confirms alignment. Prayer reaches upward. Gratitude anchors downward. When gratitude is absent, prayer can become anxious. When gratitude is present, prayer becomes confident. An ungrateful heart prays from lack. A grateful heart prays from trust. This shift changes everything. Gratitude transforms waiting into worship, delay into development, silence into strengthening. Because gratitude does not deny difficulty, it declares dependence. It says, even here I trust. Even now, I believe. Even without clarity, I remain anchored. This posture invites movement. Gratitude keeps the heart open during uncertainty, and an open heart can receive. This is why gratitude is powerful in seasons where nothing seems to change. Because gratitude is not about circumstances, it is about alignment. Grateful people see progress before it becomes visible. They notice growth before it becomes obvious. They recognize favor before it becomes public. Gratitude sharpens spiritual vision. It shifts focus from what is missing to what is forming, from what is delayed to what is developing, from what is absent to what is active. This is why gratitude sustains faith. Complaining closes awareness. Gratitude opens it. And what you become aware of, you steward better. Gratitude multiplies what remains. It may not change the situation immediately, but it changes the position of the heart, and position determines what flows next. A thankful heart stays soft. A soft heart stays teachable. A teachable heart stays aligned. An aligned heart stays ready. Gratitude keeps you ready. Ready for direction. Ready for correction. Ready for opportunity. Ready for movement. This readiness leads directly into the future, because destiny is not entered accidentally. It is entered boldly. Many people know they are called to more, yet hesitate to move forward. not because they lack faith, but because fear has learned how to sound reasonable. Fear disguises itself as wisdom, as patience, as caution, as humility. But what it truly is resistance to growth. Walking boldly into the future does not mean reckless action. It means confident obedience. Boldness is not loud. It is decisive. It is the quiet certainty that alignment produces. It is moving forward even when everything is not clear. Clarity often follows movement, not the other way around. Waiting for perfect certainty delays destiny. Boldness trusts that guidance will meet movement. Fear waits for reassurance. Faith responds to direction. This is the difference between standing near destiny and stepping into it. Boldness is required because destiny demands expansion, and expansion always stretches comfort. The future often looks intimidating because it is unfamiliar. But unfamiliar does not mean unsafe. It means new. Growth always feels risky to the familiar self, but the familiar self cannot inherit the future. This is why boldness is necessary. Boldness is choosing alignment over comfort, purpose over preference, calling over convenience. It is trusting that provision follows obedience. The future does not reward hesitation, it responds to movement. This is why gratitude and boldness are connected. Gratitude anchors you in trust. Boldness propels you into action. Without gratitude, boldness becomes arrogance. Without boldness, gratitude becomes stagnation. Together, they produce forward motion. Gratitude says, I trust. Boldness says, I will move. This is the posture of destiny. Walking boldly does not mean fear disappears. It means fear no longer decides. Fear may speak. Doubt may question. Uncertainty may whisper. But alignment answers louder. Boldness is obedience in motion. It is saying yes before knowing how. It is stepping forward before seeing the full path. Because destiny reveals itself progressively. Each step unlocks the next. This is why hesitation delays clarity. Movement releases insight. And boldness sustains momentum. The future requires courage because it demands change. New levels require new thinking. New territory requires new habits. New purpose requires new identity. You cannot walk into the future carrying outdated mindsets. Boldness includes release. Releasing old labels, old limitations, old self-definitions, old expectations. Gratitude helps release the past without resentment. It honors what was without clinging to it. It allows appreciation without attachment. This makes space for the future. A heart full of gratitude does not fear letting go, because it trusts that what is ahead is aligned with purpose. Walking boldly means trusting the process of becoming. You are not stepping into a finished version of yourself. You are stepping into growth. Destiny unfolds as you grow into it. This is why the future feels bigger than you. It requires expansion. Boldness embraces that expansion. It allows learning, allows mistakes, allows refinement. It is not perfection that moves destiny forward. It is participation. You don't have to be ready to begin. You become ready by beginning. Gratitude reminds you of how far you've come. Boldness reminds you how far you can go. Together, they stabilize faith. And when faith is stable, movement is sustainable. This is how destiny becomes lived reality. Not through waiting passively, but through walking actively. Not through fear-driven caution, but through faith-driven confidence. Not through complaining, but through gratitude. Not through hesitation, but through bold obedience. This is the invitation of this season, to pray and remain grateful, to trust and move boldly, to believe and step forward, to release and receive. Gratitude activates what prayer requests, and boldness walks into what has already been prepared. The future is not something to fear. It is something to enter, not timidly, not cautiously, but confidently. Because alignment has already gone ahead. And when gratitude leads the heart, and boldness leads the steps, destiny responds. The path opens. The future unfolds, and purpose becomes reality. This is how the journey continues, with a grateful heart, with bold steps, and with full trust that what lies ahead is not accidental, but ordained.